Holy crap, the wing must have fallen off, right? Or is there some other factors coming into Justin Lee's Boston Lee as to why it's carrying the tires 3 feet in the air across the finish line? Or did the big wing fall off somewhere going down the track? Oh wait, here is Houdini and the RX-7. One car has the tires on the ground, the other one has the tires 6 feet in the air. Hey guys, I'm Nick from Hustle and Horsepower, one of the last do-it-yourself guys that are still out there building his own chassis, motors, tuning their own car, and occasionally trying some of the out-of-the-box things to try to compete with some of the bigger budget teams racing in this outlaw small tire stuff that we do. Yes, I said outlaw. That means a very limited rule set. Occasionally, it's just 28s and doors. That's a 28-inch tall tire with steel roof and quarters and doors. Y'all can see or watch most of the stuff that we do here on the Hustle and Horsepower YouTube channel, or at least as much as I have time to film and edit. For those of you subscribed to the channel and have been following along on the build series, we will be headed back to the Bonnets in Ohio in the next couple days, and I'll be finishing up my motor, this twin-turboed big block Chevy with a pair of 88s on it that will soon find its heartbeat between the rails of Straight Gangster. We'll head it out there tomorrow, and we're hoping to have it running before we come back to New York for Christmas Eve. Over the weekend, we raced the notorious Dig or Die event down at Rockingham, North Carolina. There's no doubt that Casey Max, the Firebird, Justin Lee's Mustang, Boston Lee, Shepherd Fides, RX-7, and a few others had some pretty wild passes. Now with 117 cars on the property for Saturday's small tire no prep race here at Dig or Die, it is hard to argue that no prep racing isn't one of the biggest draws to drag racing. Ryan Mitchell, his wife Megan, crew members Eric, and a few others of the Casey Max Performance, the Firebird, are undoubtedly one of the best teams out there. They have one of the best overall programs in the sport. But, along with a few others, they did have a mishap at the top end of the track. For those of you that follow the Hustle and Horsepower Facebook page, you might have seen a little more detailed version of this. But in a condensed version, there is a big difference between dangerous and unforgiving. In my opinion, any extreme sport where we are pushing the limits, trying to do new things, you can come into some unforgiving situations. But the reward can be of small advantage that we as competitors are all looking for. Although myself, Lady Gangster, Sexy Rexy, and our 1-year-old MVP that now travels the country with us loved the family aspect of the sport, what really drew me to no prep was the ability for innovation. In class racing, you don't see much of a variety, and that's because of the extensive rule sets, which largely in return make it a financial game. You'll see a lot of the same chassis and a lot of the same engine combinations simply because of the extensive rule set for parity. With the encouragement and ability to go about your program without an abundance of rules, it makes racing a whole lot more like the 60s, when the smaller, less funded teams were able to use their brains and their hands to try to go and compete with the well-funded programs that were able to afford the best parts, latest and greatest gadgets, hired crews, tuners, etc. Well guys, if you haven't seen it yet, fellow YouTube channel Clapped Out posted a video yesterday. Have drag wings gone too far? The video is pretty accurate on how wings work and the effects on them, but there are many other factors to why cars wheelie. Now don't get me wrong, I'm well aware that the Homegrown Hustler was one ugly truck. I built this thing with very little money and using a lot of the pieces that were burnt up in the fire with the Dirty 30. Now, before I put a wing on the Homegrown Hustler or any of my other builds, I spent a lot of time studying aero, and I still only know a small fraction to the complexity of all the dimensions and factors of how it all affects a car going down the racetrack. The original build, the Homegrown Hustler, and Straight Gangster both have different setups to help with aero. Some of it's to help with downforce, and some of it is to help these old bodies go down the track, street, or a bumpy airport with some pretty good mile an hour and do it safely. Of course, in all these photos that I have posted, you can see the external wing, where it's located in correlation to the other parts of the chassis, but knowing the details to the placement is something that'll leave you hanging with. But I will say a few inches in any direction drastically changes how it works, when it works, and how much it works. To add to that, you also may or may not be able to see the other things that I have built into this chassis that allow this car to perform pretty well with the aero that is on it. Holy crap, the wing must have fallen off, right? Or is there some other factors coming into Justin Lee's Boston Lee as to why it's carrying the tires 3 feet in the air across the finish line? Or did the big wing fall off somewhere going down the track? Oh, wait. Here is Houdini and the RX-7. One car has the tires on the ground. The other one has the tires 6 feet in the air. So, guys, you know us. We're going to try to make the most of it. We're up here. We had a Miley's first birthday, or
first year appointment.
okay, we just came up. We'll just roll with it, because we're going to roll with it, guys. So we had Miley's doctor's appointment, and then I was supposed to have an x-ray of my intestines and stuff like that, but I get there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and my the x-ray machine quit working. So, you know, we're going to make the most of it. We're going to head back to the bonnets in the morning to go finish up my motor and the conversion to the 88. But to finish up this video here, we're going to talk about the other factors that are coming into play here at the top end of the track, why these cars are coming into wheelies and this and that. In my opinion, does a wing add traction? Yes. But top fuel cars, fuel altereds, pro mods, even in the pro stock cars, right? They all run wings, but they run wings for different reasons, right? A pro stock car might run a wing to have a little bit of wheel speed. Fuel altered cars, top fuel cars and stuff like that, those wings are creating a crap ton of downforce, but they also have front wings on them to balance out the chassis. So guys, they also don't have 2 feet of front end travel. Some of these cars out here are out there with 13, 15 inches of front end travel, really changing the angle of the attack of the chassis.
Action.
So, with the long travel front suspension, it really helps weight transfer. What does weight transfer do? It takes pressure off the front tires and puts it on the rear tires. What else does that do? It changes the pitch of the car. So instead of the car being flat or nose down like a radial car to prevent wheelies, it lets air get underneath the chassis. Well, what does that happen? Well, guys, when you have a sealed front end with a hood on it, most cars, even without super long travel front ends, when you get air underneath the hood, that creates a big pressure source there. Now, if you don't have NACA ducts or air bleeds like we have on Straight Gangster on the backside of the fenders, you can see that where I cut out, if you pay attention or look into the chassis, you can see where the spare tire sat on that 33 Dodge pickup truck. I cut that air out. What does that do? That puts air over the running boards and under the running boards and releases the air pressure under the fenders. That helps balance out the chassis. Weight bias. Of course, we could go into way more detail about all these things, but I'm just trying to put a little bit of some feelers out there for the guys that want to think for themselves and make their own inferences and their own viewpoints as to why this is all happening. Okay, weight bias. To get a static weight bias on the car, a lot of guys are putting 200, 300, 400 pounds of weight in the car. Boston Lee, which was one of the cars that I used the example for in this video, he only had about 125 pounds of weight in that chassis. Now, where was that weight in the chassis? Well, I don't know exactly, because this is competition. Everyone has their own little speed secrets, or everyone has their own little thing that they're trying to do to get an edge. Now, it's not always, there's many edges that you can get in the sport, right? You could either buy things and pay tuners or this or that, or you could try different things, okay? Tire pressure is a huge thing. Not only tire pressure, but the new tires. We were out there on the CO7, which I believe was a very good tire, but some of these cars were on a DO5 tire, which is a stiffer sidewall and a softer rubber contact patch on the ground. These guys, multiple people are saying they were able to put down quite a bit more power than they normally could on that surface with that tire. So, what happens when you can put more power down on the surface and you don't have wheel speed? Well, that tire is hooked up and digging. What happens when you pedal the car with a hooked up tire? Well, you start getting a slight porpoising effect in the chassis. Guys, don't mind Smiley Miley over here. She's part of the program. She travels all over the place with us. This is why she got kicked out of PRI, apparently. No, I'm just joking. She didn't get kicked out of PRI, but she was attached to Maddie. She was attached to Maddie's chest. She wasn't grabbing turbos and throwing them across the room or nothing like that. So, These new tires, a lot of these guys were on the DO5s and those things were working, okay? So you get a sealed front end that's carrying a lot of pressure. You could see on the Boston lead video, the car comes up and luckily enough for him, the hood flew off the car. If that hood didn't fly off the car, that would have been a bad situation. Unfortunately for Casey Max, his hood didn't fly off right away, and that thing took off in the air. But he was running a high crankshaft centerline. What is a crankshaft centerline? That is the height of the crankshaft. That is a guesstimation. Oh, you're causing a mess over here. That is a guesstimation of the center of gravity in the vehicle. So you're running a high center of gravity to help for traction and all these other factors going on in the chassis to help it get down this a very rough surface.
Action.
Okay, guys, we're picking it back up here now that Smiley Miley's hanging out with Nana and no longer complaining. But you combine the sealed front ends with the long travel, with the weight bias and the chassis setups and this and that, and the new tires where these guys are running essentially zero wheel slip on a very rough surface like that to promote traction, keep the tire digging into the surface. You add those factors into play and you have what could come into a wheelie. So when you come into this, different body styles promote airspeed differently. Straight gangster, the airspeed over the wing, the positioning of the wing is so that it has airspeed. Airspeed is what helps a wing work. Different cars have different amounts of different spots of airspeed on that vehicle. A truck has no airspeed right behind the cab. That's why the leaves in your pickup bed can stay there forever, okay? Now, something like Casey Max, the Firebird, that third gen, is a very efficient body style for airspeed. They do well at Bonneville and at top speed challenges and stuff like that. So the air going over that car is very smooth and very fast. So no matter where the positioning of that wing is, it is effective. Now, of course, the positioning of the wing plays on that chassis differently in different areas. But different body styles, everything comes into play a little bit differently. What I'm getting into here is the positioning of the wing on straight gangster is going to work differently if the same positioning on that wing is put on a different body style. The air is going to go over that wing differently. The air is going to seat differently at different ride heights and stuff like that. So straight gangster is built out, I guess I could say this. Once the front tires are 6 inches in the air, the airspeed going over the main wing on straight gangster, the airspeed over that drastically changes. It drops significantly. That allows straight gangster to get a very good balance point of going over the car. Now, different cars can't do that. Different body styles can't do that. Or
you're saying that wing setup on your specific car wouldn't be the same setup that you'd put on another car?
Yeah, like if I was building a different chassis setup, like that wing wouldn't be in that position.
Right.
But like there's a lot of other things that I built into straight gangster that allow me to put that wing there. But we also run a front splitter on the car. You guys have seen pictures, some of the pictures that I put earlier in the video, where it has the front splitter on it, whether it was the drop axle that has unsprung weight, which is also another big factor on how the chassis works. But on straight gangster with the independent front suspension, we have the front splitter on the car as well. Without that front splitter, we have still ran well over 155 miles an hour without the front splitter. The splitter there is basically there for an insurance policy. It does put some downforce on the front end of the car and helps balance out the chassis in case we get into a bumpy surface, or if I have to pedal the car when it's stuck, or if we go through kind of like a roller on some of these backside surfaces. No, we're not going 155 on the backside, but on the front side surfaces, we run a very similar chassis setup. That allows me to run this car front side or backside without making major changes to the chassis, so we can learn this chassis at a little bit quicker rate. So so the correlation from front side to back side is a little bit similar. Luke Glass went out there and yes, he 100% laid it down without a big wing on the car. Guys, that car works very well. He didn't have a lot of ballast in it either. There are different methods to going through this and working at it. we're running a converter that was out of the dirty 30, 3,600 pound like street strip car, right? And we're running that in straight gangster, running it on the front side and the backside stuff. That converter wasn't built, isn't even freaking close for what the home straight gangster is. But that's the cool thing about no prep racing. You could go about your program in many different ways. Now, we are leaving stuff on the table by not having the quote-unquote proper converter in straight gangster, but I could probably guarantee you the converter in Luke's car is just about optimized for that program. He spent time figuring out the chassis setup, the bar angles, everything else. So he went and moved the turbos to the back of the car. But straight gangster, we can go through and we could go low 110 60 foots. So we should be able to go, 112, 113 60 foot. We've been pretty close to that on the front side surfaces. Can Luke do that in his car? I'm not exactly sure he can. But that's the difference between different programs and what they're targeting. We plan to run on some of the front side stuff, some of the faster front side stuff that's well into the fours, and then some of this backside stuff where it's in the fives and some really like quote unquote slow surfaces. Now don't get me wrong, Luke was fast for the surface, but it's not quote unquote fast, and he's well aware of that. But don't get me wrong, he laid down the law, and he probably made one of the fastest passes that surface has ever seen. Him and Noah Stein, they teamed up. They were rolling out there. There was a couple other quick cars, and I bet you the top 8 at Dig or Die, those ETs I should say, would have won probably every other previous Dig or Die that has ever happened there, whether it's the winter race, the summer race, or the spring race. Those top 8 cars were getting it done. So guys, that's a quick food for thought type deal that let you guys do a little bit of thinking for yourself. But you can't always just jump on the bandwagon and say this is this or this is that. Just because you're didn't do the research or understand how something works in the chassis, of course you can call it outlaw that, because like you don't want to spend the money on it, or you don't want to take the time to learn it, or we should ban that because I don't understand how it works and I don't think it's safe because someone else is trying it that doesn't fully understand it. Guys, if you want to if you're afraid of this stuff, go class racing. Like that's what it is, right? Just a couple years ago, year ago, everyone was like, build an outlaw car, blah 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 blah, and let's see who the baddest is. Well, now people are starting to try some things and innovate some things, and doing things in slightly different manners to go out there and get their edge over the competition. I know people are complaining, and that's just, I don't know, that just is what it is. But I guess that's why straight gangster is built with a, we can put the factory style front suspension back on the car, and it's a back half car, firewall back, and factory wheelbase, factory firewall, and the body's not chopped or channeled or this or sectioned or anything like that. But it is what it is. And if you want a car with no wings, go run True Street or Daily Driver or something like that. Like, if you don't want a car that has that sits perfectly like yours, drop down a class and run with the slower cars. But in outlaw type racing, it's outlaw. Should, like, any weight, any body style, pick the platform that you think has the best advantage and do what you can to work it in your favor. So guys, Hustling Horsepower on the YouTube, like and subscribe. Not tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow I'll get out another video for you guys, and we will start working on Straight Gangster's new heartbeat. I'm not going to tell you what size motor that is, but it has a pair of 88s on it. It is a trick flow aluminum block. That sucker should make some pretty good power. I need to, eventually when we win some money, I'll get some bigger injectors for the thing and upgrade our Aeromotive 10 gallon a minute pump to something a little bit larger so we can really start squeezing these 88s. But we should be able to make quite a bit more power than we ever have with our previous setups. And we're looking forward to that. So guys, 2024 should be pretty fun. We got, get the motor together, have New Year's or Christmas Eve, and then after Christmas, I think we're headed south for a few days and get Straight Gangster on the dyno and maybe do a little bit of racing before we come back up here early January. So guys, follow along on the channel. We're going to finish up the build series and a couple other things, and we appreciate it. See you all soon.